Welcome to the 2026 Women of Influence celebration. It's fantastic to see such a strong response to our second year. There's nearly 400 of us that signed up for today's honor and panel discussion. And we're really excited to not only recognize the women of influence, but also hear from 5 of this year's influencers as they share some of their perspectives and insights into our industry. Before we kick all that off, I want to give a quick tour of the platform. Let's make sure we can make the most of today's discussion. Our panelists are definitely eager to connect with you and each other, so we'll make this as interactive as possible. There's both a chat and Q&A feature. If you scroll or bring your mouse over to the bottom of your screen, you should be able to see both of those pop up. We encourage you to use both of them throughout. Chat so that everybody can see what you're thinking or what you're reflecting on as we're listening to our panel. But use that Q&A to ask those questions directly of the panelists, and we will make sure that that part of the conversation, as our discussion concludes, is featured. Now, we also want to check out the related resources section on this screen. There's great information there, including links to this year's as well as our 2025 Women of Influence listings, and also ways to learn more about our mentorship and Prime initiatives too. We're ready to get started. So let's take a moment as we honor this year's Women of Influence class, an impressive group to say the least. After that, we'll move into the panel. Here's our video celebration of our 2026 honorees. Hello, and welcome to Progressive Railroading's Women of Influence in Rail virtual celebration, now in its second year, a program created to recognize the meaningful and growing contributions women are making across our industry. I'm Wendy Dietzler, Senior Director of Events and Education for Progressive Railroading, and I'm thrilled to be here as we recognize 55 women who are leading, innovating, and making a real impact across rail. To build our 2026 class, we invited companies across the industry to nominate outstanding women in 4 categories: leadership, innovation, technology, and sustainability. We asked each organization to share how their nominees are driving meaningful change within their companies, their communities, and across the entire rail landscape. And this year's response was incredible. We received nominations from Class 1 railroads, short lines and regionals, passenger rail, suppliers, contractors, engineering firms, shippers, and associations. Truly a reflection of the breadth and strength of our industry. From that pool, we are proud to recognize 55 exceptional women who are helping to shape the future of railroading. So now we'll recognize them by category, starting with leadership.
Leadership in the rail industry today requires more than just experience. It demands vision, resilience, and the ability to guide teams through change and transformation. The women we recognize in this category are not only leading in their organizations, they're influencing culture, mentoring the next generation of rail professionals, and setting the standards for the kind of inclusive and strong leadership that's required in the rail industry today. These are the women of influence in rail, recognized for leadership.
Innovation is critical to the future of rail, whether it's improving operations, enhancing safety, or rethinking long-standard processes. The women in this category are problem solvers and forward thinkers. They challenge the status quo, bring new ideas to life, and help move the industry ahead in meaningful and measurable ways. Here are this year's Women of Influence in Innovation.
Technology continues to transform rail, from automation and data analytics to advanced infrastructure and digital systems. The women recognized in this category are at the forefront of that evolution. They are leveraging technology to modernize operations, improve efficiency, and help rail compete in an increasingly high-tech world that we live in. Here are this year's Women of Influence in Technology.
Sustainability is no longer a future goal. It's a present-day priority. The women in this category are leading efforts to reduce environmental impact, improve energy efficiency, and ensure rail remains one of the most sustainable modes of transportation. Their work is not only shaping the industry, but contributing to a more responsible and resilient future. Here are this year's Women of Influence in Sustainability.
On behalf of Progressive Railroading, I'd like to extend my sincere congratulations to the entire 2026 Women of Influence in Rail class. Your contributions are helping to move this industry forward in powerful ways, and your stories are an inspiration to all of us. I'd also like to thank all of our sponsors for their support of this important initiative and for helping to make this celebration possible. And now, we're excited to continue the conversation. Please join me in welcoming Julie Snyder and a select group of our Women of Influence honorees to the virtual stage for a discussion on their experiences, their insights, and perspectives on the future of rail. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome again to the 2026 celebration of Women of Influence in Rail. As Kirk mentioned, I'm Julie Snyder, Senior Editor of Progressive Railroading, and we have just, I think, a fantastic conversation lined up for everyone today. We have a very distinguished panel of five of our honorees this year. What I'm going to do is introduce them by name and company. They'll tell you a little bit about themselves. We'll go through some questions that we are looking forward to discussing, and then in the latter half of our hour, we'll take questions from our attendees and continue the conversation. Our panelists, starting with Erica Brunke, who is from Rail Pros. Then we have Elizabeth Hucker of CPKC, Linda Lorello from Delta Railroad Services, Carol Rose of STV, and Joe Strang from the American Shortline and Regional Railroad Association. So I'm going to start with Erica. If you could describe your current role at Rail Pros and talk a little bit about how you got into the rail industry.
I would be delighted, Julie. Thank you very much. Well, good afternoon, everyone. First, I am incredibly humbled to be a part of such an amazing and elite group of women and have the honor of speaking with you all this afternoon. I am the Chief Sales and Growth Officer for Rail Pros. I've been in that position now for about 2 years. And truth be told, the railroad industry actually found me. So I graduated from the University of Missouri with a degree in marketing. And it was an awesome group of candidates there at a career fair at the University of Missouri that found me, introduced me to the rail industry, and here I am almost 20 years later, still loving it. It's been an exciting journey, and I'm very excited to share some of that with you guys today.
Thanks so much, Erica. Now we'll move on to Elizabeth Hucker of CPKC. Elizabeth?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of an amazing class of women representing so many different functions and facets of the rail industry. My formal title at CPKC is Vice President of Marketing and Sales of Bulk. It's been a slight change since the announcement of the award. Railroading has always been in my blood. I'm actually a third-generation railroader. My father drove trains for what was the legacy CP in Thunder Bay, Ontario. And what I found so interesting about the industry and what really has drawn me to it and actually helped me to stay is that it touches so many facets of the worldwide economy. While rail is moving throughout North America, we still have the ability to touch the world. And so it's ever changing and ever evolving. And it's something that has kept me passionate and not only brought me here, but has kept me here. So thank you so very much for the opportunity today.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Next, we'll hear from Linda Lorello from Delta Railroad Services. Linda?
Thanks, Julie. I'm so excited to be a part of this panel with these wonderful women. I am currently Delta Railroad's chairman of the board. I'm a fourth generation railroad. My family started the business of Delta Railroad in 1957 by my great-grandfather. And I, after college, decided to start working with the family business, and I haven't left. I have held all the positions from accounting, learning back office of things, as well as project management, field engineering, quality control, you name it, I've done it. So I have also been in the executive C-suite as the CFO, the COO, the CEO, and now the chairman of the board. So I'm really excited for the start of this new adventure that I am going to be doing industry relationships and marketing and being at the forefront of the industry, just bringing rail up to date.
Thanks, Linda. Next, we'll hear from Carol Rose at STV. Carol?
Thanks, Julie. Hi, everyone. I'm really honored to be here today. So my name is Carol Rose. I'm a vice president at STV, and I work in our vehicle centers of excellence practice, where I'm a project manager and electrical engineer. And what I do is primarily support agencies in their procurement of new passenger rail vehicles. So we provide project management, engineering, and quality assurance services. So I think you'll get a different answer depending on who you ask about why I'm here. If you ask my mother, she would say it's destiny, because when I was a kid, my favorite toy was my little red plastic train. But I think it was a little bit of dumb luck. So after college, I was, randomly applying for jobs, and I answered a one ad for STV. I didn't know who the company was or what they did, and I landed here, and I've been here ever since. So I've really enjoyed working in the industry.
Thanks so much, Carol. And then we have Joe Strang of the American Shortline and Regional Railroad Association. Joe?
Thank you, Julie, and thanks to everybody for being part of this amazing group of women. I'm really honored to be part of it. So I'm currently the Senior Vice President of Safety, Regulatory, and Environmental Policy at the Short Line Association. You know, we represent over 600 short line railroads across the United States and have over 500 supplier members. My current role most of the time is dealing with the government, which is kind of ironic because I spent so many years in it. So I help our members with regulatory matters, with, you know, the alphabet soup of government agencies. So anybody at DOT, whether it's FRA or PHMSA, at OSHA, EPA, you know, it just goes on and on. So that's what my day job is primarily. And then prior to that, I did spend many years in the Federal Railroad Administration, serving as the Chief Safety Officer. And then before that, I ran the R&D department. So I've kind of had all the great experiences of being able to crash trains for a living, do investigations, and run a huge regulatory agency.
Thanks so much, Joe. So to get started with our discussion today, we just heard from our panelists about why and how they got into the rail industry, many of them connections from their families. But when it comes to recruiting and retention, let's talk a little bit about how the rail industry can sell itself to the next generation of professionals. And in talking about that, I'd like to know from your point of view why rail is still relevant and why will it remain so. Oftentimes we hear from younger people who are surprised that the rail industry is quote unquote still around. So let's talk a little bit about those 2 points. Who would like to kick off this conversation? Erica, how about you?
I'll go ahead with some initial thoughts there. So naturally, in my opinion, the rail industry will always remains to be relevant because it's literally the backbone of our country. It's how we were built. It's how every and all other systems were built from. So we remain integrated fully into who and what we are on a day-to-day basis. The challenge that is on deck for all of us is to showcase how that shows up to the average person, if you will. The shoes on your very feet, the TV in your living room, the computer that you're probably looking at right now is more than likely because of a train that took it from A to B. The innovation part, which I think my counterparts here can speak to much better, is where we need to bring the flair to. And I think that lies the key of where the next generation is going to come.
Very good points. Elizabeth, you had mentioned in your opening comments about railroading moves the economy. And maybe you can give a little North American perspective on that since CPKC crosses North America. Talk a little bit about how you would sell rail to the next generation.
Certainly. Thank you, Julie. So at CPKC, we have a network that touches Canada, the United States, and Mexico. And when I look across the broad depth of commodities that we touch, to Erica's point, it's not just the things that are all sitting at our desks and what we are using to participate in this web series here today, but it's also all of the raw materials and the input goods that show up in a myriad of different ways throughout our economy, be it the food on our table each day that we consume with grain and grain products moving to not only feed ourselves, but animals, lumber to build our homes, diesel and gasoline to fuel our vehicles to help us get from A to B. It touches so much of it. And so much of North America is exported to the world, and so much of the materials are imported into North America. So we touch so many different aspects of the world. And I often say that rail is a leading indicator for what's going on in the economy. I think the one other thing that I would add to your question about relevance is the rail industry continues to invest in the communities in which we run through. At CPKC, we have a long-standing program called the Holiday Train, which raises donations, be it monetary or food, through the communities in which we run through in Canada, the United States. There's a different program in Mexico celebrating the holidays. We've also had, the steam train that commemorated the coming together of the legacy CP and KCS, which ran from our global head office in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, through Canada and the United States all the way down into Mexico, just bringing people together around the rail industry. So be it the commodities that we touch and what we move from A to B, or how we show up and participate in the communities in which we run through, I think rail, is tremendously relevant both here today and into the future as we continue to innovate.
Also very good points. Linda, I've talked with you in the past about your work to communicate rail and the potential for careers in rail to other people outside of the industry. Talk a little bit about how you're doing that, and whether you believe this is something that the rail industry should be doing on a bigger scale.
Sure. Last year, we actually did a CEO for a day where we invited applicants to apply to be literally the CEO for a day. We took them through what a CEO does in the morning till the afternoon, sitting in a boardroom, walking through one of our sites, and just being able to make critical decisions. I think that was a really eye-opening experience for all of our participants. I think that what we do is so relevant to the economy that we've been here for generations. It's just we don't do a very good job of storytelling. We don't do a good job of just bringing awareness to what the rail industry is. And I think that if we bring activities like that, the CEO for a day, or just different opportunities for younger people coming out of high school or even college, and letting them know that rail has so many opportunities, not just building railroad tracks, but working in IT and technology, working with innovation, building new machines to work so that we're safer on the railroads. Just bringing that to the forefront is really going to be what our next generation of railroaders need to hear.
Joe, do you have any thoughts on this particular topic?
Yeah, so it's amazing when you think about how to draw people into an industry that's as old as ours is. You kind of think, well, how do we make this exciting and new? And part of it is really around technology. I mean, if you look at the innovations that are going on today, whether it be through inspection technology, machine vision, learning, there's just so many ways to bring in new young talent through that. And then the other thought I have is that, one of the things that we try to do, and you all are promoting, is being good mentors. So once you find somebody, it's important to mentor them so that they can grow and learn and be a vibrant part of our community.
Carol, I was wondering, when the rail industry, especially since it is high tech, and you're trying to get that message out to people, do you feel that the industry is competing with other high tech industries to recruit those strong candidates with high tech skills?
I think for sure we are. I'm coming from an engineering background, and there are plenty of places to work as an engineer. I think what's interesting about the rail industry is there is a lot of innovation, and maybe we need to talk about that more. But there's a lot of room to grow here, as an engineer or as a technical person. You can quickly become an expert, and you can have a lifelong career doing it. There's room. We've already mentioned innovation. If you're looking at things like energy efficiency or predictive maintenance using big data, software engineering, there's all kinds of things. And I don't know that the general public knows all of that. I didn't when I started here. So I think that's maybe something we need to express a little bit better.
Truly the case. So I'd like to just talk a little bit about leadership and career growth. One question I think is relevant here is, what business advantages have you all seen from more inclusive teams in rail? Historically, the rail industry recruited from from men, basically. And in many more recent years, it has expanded its net to fill in a lot of the positions that they're losing, the experienced people, the experienced men they're losing due to retirement. So the industry's been casting a wider net to bring in new people. So what business advantages have you seen from more inclusive teams and on that leadership point of view, from that leadership point of view? Who'd like to start here?
I'll start.
Go ahead, Carol.
I think diversity is always better. And I was thinking that a question like this would come up. When I first started at STV, I was the only female in the office. And so at times it was a little bit difficult to connect. But at one point I had a manager come up to me and say, Carol, I don't know how you do what you're doing, but keep on doing it. And so some of the things that I've developed over the years are still in use today. So the more diversity you have of people, of thought, I think you can bring in new ideas, and that really does support your business in the long run.
Erica, did you have some thoughts on this?
Carol beautifully said it there. The diversity of thought, I truly think, is one of the largest business advantages. It brings in a different perspective, a different stance, different experiences that really help to make the strongest business decisions. And I think it's also important to mention kind of in this dialogue that it's not necessarily the standalone DEI initiatives, that we're talking about right now. We're really looking at the sustainability and strength of the industry, of an organization, of what it is we do. It's bringing that thought and that knowledge into all aspects: development, growth, innovation, operation. It's not just a check the box anymore. We have evolved past that, which is fantastic.
Joe, could you chime in on this? I mean, your career background has touched upon different sectors within rail. If you could respond to this topic.
Sure. Like Carol, when I started, I was the only. And I always said it was great because there's never a line at the ladies' room. So, you can look at things from different perspectives, right? So one of the things that I've noticed over the years is that some of the changes led to some really good innovations, in safety. So let's focus on something that is absolutely the forefront of any railroader's mind, and that is being safe. So when we look at changes that we've seen focusing on things that aren't just inspection technologies, but focusing on cultural aspects of railroading, like safety culture, is a huge element of having a safe railroad. So I think that we've seen great strides in the development of strong safety cultures through efforts throughout the industry, through the Short Line Safety Institute, for example, that has a great and wonderful diverse team.
Elizabeth, what have you seen in terms of diversity of thought? How has that been an advantage in the industry, in your view?
So when I think about diversity of thought, having been with the railroad for 25 years, sometimes it can feel like we've seen everything, right? We've gone through several business cycles, be it ups and downs or otherwise. And that's where I think diversity of thought really comes into play when we're thinking about the next evolution of a business cycle. Not every recession, not every boom is the same. And if we continue to think about them in the same ways that they've happened in the past, we'll just naturally stagnate. And so with the diversity of thought, you come up with new creative ideas in ways to address challenges for the industries, for our customers, be it in safety, technology, leadership, different foundations, communication, for instance, right? I'm every day learning that AI has a better way for me to communicate with people than the way I might have been doing it in the past. And it's not without that diversity of thought that we would come up with these new and creative ways to tackle existing problems or problems that we've seen in the past, just a new way to do it.
Great. Great response. Linda, I'm going to ask you this question and then we can go to the other panelists on this as well. Can you describe a pivotal moment that helped shape your leadership style? I mean, you described earlier how you really moved up in the ranks of what is your family business, and now you're at the very top. So if you could talk about that, a pivotal moment or an event that helped shape your leadership style.
Sure. Thanks, Julie. I think that the point in time when I really knew that I wanted to be in this industry and lead a group of people into the next rail generation was when my dad decided to ship me off to Shreveport, Louisiana to work with actually the Kansas City Southern at the time. And I was the only woman, just like some of our panelists. So I packed up my car and my dog and drove from Ohio to Louisiana, not having any place to live, like just starting over pretty much and learning from the ground up. At that point, I was supposed to lead a bunch of people that I, first of all, didn't even know what I was doing at the time. So really taking insight from all of the people that worked for us helped me learn what we do, how we do it, and how to do it safely. It was at that point that I realized that I really needed to make sure that I was able to talk with everyone who worked with us, learning and doing. I wanted to be able to do like every step. I didn't want to ever ask someone to do something if I hadn't tried it myself. So just leading in that way and knowing that you can be a leader without even having like a management title, or just knowing you have to do the right thing, leading in safety and being at the forefront of making sure we all get home at the end of the day was really that pivotal part of when I was in my 20s, traveling all over for Delta.
Erica, how about you? Is there a pivotal moment that helped shape your leadership style?
Oh, yes. So going back to early in my career, the general manager of the Northwest Division became a very good mentor, and even to this day, still a friend. He moved into the system safety team, leading all of these system safety efforts. And it was in that role where I once again got to report to him that I had this moment. I often struggled as a young railroader to find my voice, which ultimately is confidence. Feeling that someone else was going to say it, I didn't need to involve myself, and I would always just kind of fade, into the background at the table. And he pulled me aside and told me, "You were invited into this meeting. You were invited because of the thoughts that you have, the knowledge that you bring. So say it, speak it up. Don't be afraid." And yes, it's not just as easy as saying that. It took many years to practice that mantra, but that moment of him helping me find my voice and giving me the platform to explore and find my voice really changed my entire career trajectory.
Oh, that's fantastic. Carol, how about you? Is there a moment that you can think of that was pivotal in shaping your leadership style?
Yes, Erica mentioned confidence. And I think if you know me, you know that I'm involved in professional organizations. And something that really helped me, both in WTS, whose mission is to advance women in transportation. I'm a past president of my local chapter. And then in my personal life, I was COO, or Chief Operating Officer, of the Junior League of Philadelphia, which is also about women volunteering in the community. And what I learned through both of those organizations is I developed a lot of confidence in my leadership style. It was an easier way to practice leadership without really impacting where I was in my career, and I say if you can lead volunteers who aren't getting paid, then it's, you can translate that pretty easily to leading people that you're paying.
Elizabeth, do you have any thoughts on a pivotal moment that helped shape your leadership style?
Certainly early on in my career, I worked at the Legacy CP for a gentleman by the name of Brent Dorney, and I reported directly to him. And the one thing that Brent always provided was a space to be creative and think. Oftentimes in the rail industry, it's very much about the execution of it. It's the operations of it. It's how we move things day to day. And sometimes it's challenging to find the time, to think or be creative and then have the support to do that. And so what Brent showed me was that there is a time and a place for each of those things in the railroad. We talked a little bit about innovation earlier, and if you don't create the time to be creative, as an industry, we'll be challenged to innovate, but there has to be a balance for both. And ultimately, by creating the space, Brent then also supported me to champion the ideas that were created in that space within the organization to ultimately be successful in different ways that way. So it's very much something that I look to try to emulate today in my leadership style. And it's evolved to being in service of the people that I lead. I'm here to help create that space and support them by walking beside them or walking behind them to help champion them and support them in the things that they want to achieve through their career, be it here or, if unfortunately they decide that another industry is where they want to be, to continue to do that in the future.
Both of you, or a couple of you mentioned that there was someone with more experience who opened the door and invited you in to contribute. So talk a little bit, especially keep in mind people who are coming up behind you. How have you advocated for yourself and for others on your teams? And what advice would you give to someone who is in a position a few years behind you trying to grow into some kind of a leadership role? Should we start with Joe on this one?
Sure, happy to join. So I also was very fortunate to have a wonderful mentor, and this was early in my career. And he noticed that I was able to quickly grasp mechanical concepts. So he said, Joe, there's so much more you could do. Why don't you go do this? And I was like, I have no clue how to do that. He's like, that's fine. I'll pair you up. You can learn it. And I did. And in the process, I became certified to do boiler inspections for steam engines. So quite a stretch. But one of the things that taught me was that just because you're not in a position where you do something doesn't mean you can't do it. And it doesn't mean you can't find people that can identify a gap where you may not recognize a skill you have, but if you practice recognizing those skills in others, you can bring them along and help them grow and give them the same kind of opportunities. And sometimes it is shoving you off the deep end. And that's okay, because you learn how to swim, and then you're confident, you're strong, and you're like, hey, I can do this. And if I can do that, I can do anything else.
Linda, tell me how you would advise other people coming up in the ranks, how you would suggest that they advocate for themselves and grow into a leadership role.
Thank you. I failed to mention before, actually, one of my pivotal people in my career that helped me start and really helped me know that what women can do in this industry was my grandmother. She was the CEO of the company. She led our company. We were a DBE company for a very long time. And then we graduated that program, which we were very proud of, getting as large as we did. And she really did show me that women can do anything. Women can pick up a sledgehammer and build track, but they can also run equipment. And being a part of that really helped shape my my goal in being in the rail industry. I would also say that making sure you remember that people, if you take the time to really teach others what you can do, then sometimes it is easier to do it yourself, but then you're really influencing the next generation of people in this industry. And then coming from a person who is the mentor, you get a lot of satisfaction in seeing other people grow and become leaders in what they're doing. So I think it's just important to make sure that we're always aware that people are watching, the people who work for you, the people you work alongside, your children, the people who are coming in the next generation. People are watching, and they will, they'll follow what you're doing in this industry. So it's really important to be that mentor, even when you're not specifically someone's mentor. You're actually a mentor for the industry.
Yeah, very good point. Carol, could you talk about advice? I mean, I'm sure this probably comes up at WTS, your involvement. What advice do you give to people coming up who would like to grow into a leadership role in the rail business?
I think you can probably guess, I'm going to say it's important to get involved. I think getting involved in a professional organization, whether it's WTS or something else, is a great way to have some self-development, to meet people in the industry, to network, to get to know what opportunities are available to you. You can find a mentor in your organization or in another organization. You can ask within your own company for maybe stretch assignments where you can try a little bit more than what you're usually doing. And usually your company is going to support you with that because they want you to grow as well and support the business. So there's a lot of little things you can do to get you on the path to leadership.
Okay, great. One question that's already come up from the panel or from our audience members, and it was on our list to discuss, is how you have navigated challenges in your career. Obviously, rail, like many other industries, is evolving, and there are a lot of changes coming ahead. So talk about how you've navigated challenges in your career, what you've learned from that process, and how you use those skills to remain resilient. Let's start with Erica on this question. Erica?
Great question. I'll start to coin a phrase. It's not how you fall down, it's truly how you get back up. In this industry, you will fall down. You will make mistakes, but that is almost what makes you, no, almost does make you stronger on the other side. So don't be afraid to fail. And I know it's a very tough thing to kind of wrap your mind around. But once you experience that, quickly identify what happened, how did I get here, how do I fix this in my future as to not repeat this same mistake, learn from it, and chart a new course. And I can't echo enough what Carol has just said there of get involved, because that is also how you truly learn. I'm sure everyone out there in the audience knows I volunteer a lot too. But it really does expand your mind, expand your knowledge, introduces you to new groups and organizations of thought. And I think I saw a question in the audience as well of other things outside of the rail. Throw yourself into something like a speakeasy or a Toastmasters, because that kind of learning really helps keep you on your toes as well. So in a phrase, don't be afraid of failure, embrace it.
Elizabeth, how about you? How have you navigated challenges in your career over the years, and what skills do you recommend other people try to learn in staying resilient in an ever-changing industry?
I would say to stay curious, always asking questions about the why or how things are going on or what things have happened in the past. The ability to stay curious lets you continue to learn and evolve based upon the circumstances that you find yourself in. And I think to that end, one of the things that has really helped me be successful in my career and in my leadership journey is to stay authentic to myself. I may get into several different situations that require me to show up differently, a tough conversation with a colleague or an employee or a tough negotiation, or even when things are going well, I might show up differently, but I am always authentic to who I always am. And that gives people that work with me and that I lead and get to interact with a knowledge that I'm consistent. They know what to expect from me, and they know how I'm going to present myself and be there in any situation that they've got. So those are the two things that I think have, really helped me in my career, and I do really believe will help me in the future, but also help others in the future that way as well. That's what I would share, Julie.
Great. Linda, how do you navigate challenges in your career? How have you done so? And what do you recommend to others to stay resilient in a changing industry?
I think that this goes back to showing up. Like Elizabeth said, you have to put yourself out there. You have to be a part of it. Don't be afraid to use your voice, like Eric said. Really just be a part of every conversation, even if you're not an engineer and we're in a conversation of designing something. Someone who doesn't have an engineering background may have an idea that then an engineer can actually run with. It might be totally out of the box and they wouldn't have thought of it. So really just being a part of everything that you can be a part of, just, in the industry, volunteering, being a part of like the League of Railway Women, and just showing up and knowing that we're building America. Like we're building, and we're a part of something greater than what we're doing every single day. So being proud of what we do and really realizing that you are a part of this huge infrastructure, economy moving rail industry. So just really understanding that and showing up every day.
Carol, how have you navigated challenges in your career over the years? And is there an example that you could share that might be helpful to people coming up behind you?
Sure. I agree with everything everyone has said so far, but what I haven't heard is that it's okay to ask for help. So as a project manager, every single day I deal with challenges and problems. I don't have all the answers, but I know who to go to get help to get those answers. And I think that's a really important thing to know. An example that I have is I was having a conflict with someone, and I didn't know how to get past that point. So I reached out to someone in our training department and I said, can you give me a little primer on conflict resolution? And she did. We spent about an hour together. We had a little mini prep session, and I was able to use those techniques to then help me resolve that conflict. And now I'm actually pretty good friends with the person I was having a conflict with.
Great.
So it's okay to reach out for help. And you don't have to know everything, but you do need to know who to go to get that help.
Very interesting perspective, and what a wonderful solution. Joe, can you tell us some of the challenges that you've navigated in your career, and what would you recommend to help people stay resilient in an industry that's undergoing change?
Sure. I'll go back a ways. At one point in time, I was asked to go lead the Office of Safety within the Federal Railroad Administration temporarily. When I got there, I found that the organization had really huge ethical challenges in the fact that people were not behaving with integrity. And since integrity is so important to everything we do, especially in the government, I mean, it was something that it took me literally a couple years to turn around, but I did. But I did that with the support of Joe Boardman, who many of you probably know and remember well. But it wasn't easy. And one of the things that I learned then was like, no matter how much opposition I got to doing the right thing, even if it took me a while, having my own standards of integrity and living up to my own standards was super important to that success. And that continues today. And that's something that, I agree with everything everyone said before too. And I applaud that. But I really think knowing yourself and having a standard for yourself that you're not going to deviate from is really important to success.
I'd like to start taking some questions from our audience. One question we have here is, how do you as leaders intentionally pay it forward by recognizing talents and skills in others and helping them grow in their careers? Who would like to start on that?
Hey, I would love to, if you don't mind. So
Go
one
ahead.
of the things that I do is I believe in the best way of recognizing somebody is publicly in some ways. So I nominate my colleagues for awards. I give them public praise whenever I can. I am so lucky to have the best colleagues in the world at the Shortline Association, and the best members too. So like, we are super lucky to have what we have. And I believe in the recognition programs that we have as an association and the recognition programs that I try to, promote my colleagues in. So whether it's, something that your organization does, Julie, which are always great, or in other ones, I like to nominate, promote, and like publicly praise my colleagues and friends.
Great. Erica, you're nodding your head yes. Can you comment on that?
No, that's the nominations is one of the best ways, I think, to elevate and, pay things forward. There's also, a few minor things. You can always promote someone via LinkedIn of a great project or something that you have done together. That's a little more, we'll say, low-key way, but still reaches a huge audience. And certainly so, I know RailPros has an internal network to be able to spotlight and showcase great talent. So if you don't have one at your organization, be the one to suggest it. Because it's great to have the echo outside into the industry, but it's also really important to keep that echo internally within your organization to help bring along the next leaders.
Linda, what ways have you recognized the talents in others and publicly acknowledged that at your organization?
Sure. We have an impact champions is what we call it, where anyone in the company can nominate other people for doing great things. And we do that quarterly. And once you're nominated, you get a plaque, you get put on social media, talked about why you're an impact champion. And it also just makes someone feel good that not just your boss is looking at you from a standpoint of leading or doing a great job, but it's also the people you work with side by side every day. We also did like a LinkedIn series, like Erica was mentioning that you can do, where we did a day in a life of, and we actually highlighted a person or multiple people from different parts of our company and just took them through like, what do you actually do so that it could just really motivate other people and educate other people on what they do. And then currently I'm actually planning on hosting a podcast for women in rail. So I want to highlight people from working from just starting in the industry to C-suite to field workers, anyone who's a trailblazer in our industry or wants to be. So those are just some things that we've done, and then what I'm going to do.
Terrific. That's a great way to highlight. I like your idea of the podcast. Elizabeth, I think I remember reading that CPKC has a number of ways that it recognizes employees in various ranks for good work. Can you talk a little bit about that, and also how you as a leader do that?
Certainly. So we have an annual set of awards called the CEO Awards that, depending on the 5 foundations that we have in our organization, there is the opportunity, not only as a leader, but as a peer, to recognize through nomination something great that an individual has done, be it for safety, providing service, people development, or leadership, or otherwise. And so there's a nomination process that happens. It's all due in typically around Halloween. And then from the nominations, there's a more formal recognition for those that are leading in those foundations. So everyone receives a letter of recognition from our CEO, Mr. Keith Creel. And then for those that are the most distinguished in those categories, they're recognized through an awards program that is then happens where they can bring their families and their significant others to be a part of that recognition. So we have a number of very formal recognition processes, or programs rather, within CPKC. But I think one of the most impactful things that I like to do as a leader is for those that are subject matter experts or who are doing things really well, showcasing that not only within their peer group, but within our broader marketing and sales organization. So someone who uses Salesforce really well and knows how to get a great exception in, right? Helping them to showcase that with their peer group organically, but then also introducing them to other people within the organization to help them build their network within the organization, to almost, pay forward the recognition. It's not just, you're doing a great job, keep it up, that's an amazing Excel spreadsheet, but it's how can I also help take that, recognize that throughout the organization and help them more broadly build their network so that they get the benefit of being recognized, but also the longer term development of their own network and throughout CPKC.
Terrific. Carol, you've already talked about community and professional organizations, and I know WTS has a number of recognition programs, but can you talk a little bit about what you do as a leader in that regard and what STV does to recognize the good work of its employees?
Yeah, I think I'm going to be echoing a lot of what has already been said. So, of course, we have external nominations. We also have a formal program internally, for annual awards such as Project of the Year. Other ways, maybe on a smaller scale, we have, our managers group will share achievements that, that anybody has had. We have a quarterly newsletter that will share information on, as well as, marketing is your friend. Marketing will always make you look good. If you reach out to them, they will help develop social media posts or whatever to recognize people's achievements. So I think that's a helpful way as well to get the word out about what somebody has accomplished.
I think we have time just for one more question, and I'd like to ask this question because I think it applies to both men and women in leadership roles in rail. But how do you manage your time? How do you balance your demanding role in work alongside your personal life? What work-life balance strategies have worked for you? Who'd like to jump in with this one?
I can.
Yes, Linda.
So I have 3 young children that I am raising, as well as, my full-time job. And what has worked for me is realizing that I can't do everything myself and to ask for help and really mentoring other people so that you have that help. Alongside then bringing them up quicker in an organization. And then remembering that at the end of the day, your work is still going to be there, like tomorrow, the next day. But taking time to shut off and be with your family is really important to me, as well as I think it makes me a stronger leader, because there's actually a lot of things that I've learned being a mother that I use in my business life that have helped me achieve, where I am today.
Erica, what do you recommend? What are your favorite time management strategies?
So I think we mentioned this earlier on, advocating for your own path within an organization. I would say this applies to time management as well. You need to advocate and protect your own time. You manage your calendar, you manage your day, not the other way around. So be intentional with blocking time for family, blocking time for personal growth and development. Heck, blocking time to just go outside and stare at the sun for 10 minutes. These things are incredibly important to help keep you strong and resilient. So it sounds simple. It's not, though.
Yeah. Right. Elizabeth, do you have any thoughts on this? Do you have some favorite time management skills that you can share?
Well, I don't know that time management is my strong suit, but I think that that's unfortunately what's made me successful in my career in the rail industry. I think the one thing that I try to do, Linda and Erica have already spoken about a number of the different things that you can do. What I do try to do, and I say this a lot of times to people or employees that I've worked with or I'm mentoring that are just becoming parents, and I'll say to them, be easy on yourself, because you're going to feel like you're failing in one place. It'll be, I'm failing as a parent, I'm failing at work, I'm not keeping up with my workload. Creating structured blocks, but recognizing that it will change. Like, we control what you can control, but also be easy on yourself, that perfection isn't what's required in every moment of every day. And I find if you give yourself that latitude, it helps you manage through when things are happening that you can't control, be it at work or your personal life, or even frankly, when they collide. So.
Joe, in your position, especially with the association, you've got, well, as does everyone in rail, many times a lot of travel. So how do you balance personal life with professional life, and especially when you're on the road a lot?
Yeah, it's that's always a challenge, but it's one that's achievable. And part of that is I'm very fortunate in that the colleagues that I have and the people with whom I work are respectful of our time, right? So I don't usually have members calling me at midnight, which I greatly appreciate. But I'm always available. So like if somebody has a problem, I'll help them out. But I'm lucky that I'm in a world that treats time with respect. And that includes my colleagues, because if something is urgent and it's off hours, they'll text me. So we can, kind of work it out that way. So that's one way to have it, is just to kind of manage expectations. And also, like, I'm just lucky that I'm in the environment that I'm in, honestly. Like, when I was in the government, I was on 24/7 and I couldn't shut it off. This is a little bit different and it's much more manageable.
Carol, bring us home on this one. What are your best time management strategies?
I preach this often to my deputy project manager. It's okay to set boundaries. That's my biggest piece of advice. When I leave for the day, I really value home and family life, and that was mentioned earlier. And I really do try to protect that. Of course, I'm available in an emergency, but generally I try not to bring work home with me, so I can have my home life at home and my work life at work. I use my commute to do some of my other activities. I mentioned professional organizations. That's where I do some of my stuff. I have a 45-minute train ride, or I'll do fun stuff. Like, I like to crochet and I'll do that on the train. But whatever, I compartmentalize, I guess is what I'm saying. And I think it's okay to set boundaries.
Well, that's a great point to end on. We should all be taking the train more often and using that time for crocheting or reading a good book or just meditating, maybe. So that's the last question that I have time for. I was concerned this would happen, and it did. So many more questions than we have time for, and what a fantastic conversation we've had. Let's see, Wendy, are you going to close us out here?
You bet, Julie. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody. Joe, Elizabeth, Erica, Linda, Carol. Just amazing. As Julie said, it's a problem, but it's a good problem to have. We just ran out of time. There are opportunities for us to stay engaged. So please stay in touch with each other. Keep talking. Linda, keep us posted on that podcast, okay? Because I have a feeling that's another way for us to engage and keep the conversation going. In the meantime, I wanted to say thank you to everybody, our panel, also our audience, to everybody who submitted and nominated somebody for this year's recognition program. Thank you. We are not going to let this be the last year this happens. This continues into 27 and beyond. So please watch for and listen for and think about those opportunities as you look towards the rest of 26. Thank you, everybody, for your time today. Thank you to our sponsors for supporting this vital industry event and for giving us the platform upon which to talk about all of these great opportunities facing women and also the rail industry in general. With that, we will wrap up today's webcast. Thank you all for being a part of it. Have a great day.